Perfect. Okay. So thank you to colleagues from Asitor for inviting us with a contribution to this wonderful conference. FECBOP is a European Federation of Centers of Career Guidance. We are currently based in 10 European countries, and we have around 50 members, many of which are also in Italy. And in this presentation, we are asked to provide some specific and concrete examples about how career guidance can respond to some of the challenges that the labor market and the people entering and active on the labor market face in general. So what are these challenges? So this is maybe a little bit theoretical, but it is true that in the recent maybe 10, maybe 20, maybe 50 years, it depends on the point of view, career guidance and labor market has been facing several challenges that cumulatively almost result in a state of some sort of crisis. What are these challenges? Now the green transition that is more and more urgent, not only for companies to integrate green practices to their production, but also for people to integrate green or environmental concerns into their activities and career decisions. We have the question of skills that are being obsolete, whereas previously the lifespan of a competence used to be 40 years, according to one research done in France. Today, it's 2 years, which means that every 2 years, a worker has to learn new skills, update his or her skills, or risk being obsolete. We are facing longer working life with the reform of retirement. In every country, people work more and more later and later. And of course, digital transition, but also questions that are maybe more problematic or even deeper. How can we make sure that in this changing and accelerating world, people have access to decent work? How can guidance contribute to this? And also, how can career guidance respond to the shifting role of the work in our lives? People, mostly young people, we observe this since the COVID, but even before, shift their focus. Work and employment is no longer the centrality of their lives. And this integrating is in a more holistic concept of a lifestyle, which changes the perspective of career concerns and questions that people might have when they come to see career counselors. So here are 3 or 4 examples from our member countries of how career guidance can respond to some of these challenges, and hopefully some of them will be of a use for you. Is it okay, the tempo and the translation can keep up and you can hear me well? I can't hear you now.
Can you hear?
Yes?
Okay. Yes, everything is
perfect. Thank you. So the first example is from France. A French study recently showed that people that are soliciting career guidance services can have very different expectations. And generally, they identified 2 approaches. One approach is what we would call an opportunist. I am at a situation of my career where I need a very specific info and very specific guidance intervention to take a good decision at a good moment. This can be done in 1 or 2 meetings, and my problem is usually resolved. And then there is a second type of solicitations or of requests based more on a vocational strategy, where I want to change perhaps my professional orientation. I want to change my career. I need to work on my career goal, on my career project. And here I need a more intense and long-term accompaniment and support. Now, the question is, how do we construct a guidance service that would be available for everyone? Now we are talking about guidance services for adults, and that would be able to respond to both of these strategies. We have an example of a bilan de compétences, or a competence balance, or bilancio di competenze, that traditionally is a very holistic service that takes 24, 30, 40 hours with modules that can be very useful in the context of labor market insertion when a holistic solution is needed. But for some situations, a more personalized, a more flexible and adaptable, and perhaps also shorter solution could be more useful, more pertinent, more efficient in terms also of the costs. And in France, since 2020, a new public guidance service for all adults has been created that is proposed on a flexible basis. It's a two-level, open-ended and modular public guidance service that is accessible to all. So not only unemployed people, not only young people who enter the labor market, but also for people who are employed, who are working, and who want to develop their careers within the companies, or who want to change companies and who want to engage in lifelong learning. So just as an illustration, you have the level 1 service that is usually one meeting that can take 1.5 to 2 hours in average, where the person comes, informs himself or herself about the opportunities, about the possibilities, and gets his answers, and can continue or not on the second level guidance, where in average we can propose him 4 hours of guidance service that is structured into maximum 6 meetings. When I say 4 hours in average, it means that sometimes it can be just 1 hour, sometimes it can be 12, 20 hours, depending on the problematic of the person. And the results so far has been very positive. The state launched this as a 4-year project, and now they have reconducted this based on the collaboration with regional private providers of career guidance, because the results are positive in terms of participation in lifelong guidance and using of the existing services such as individual training accounts and validation of informal and non-formal learnings, all these things that are also relevant topic for Italy. So if you want to know more about this service, you can go on the website mon-cep.org. It's called in French Conseil en évolution professionnelle. In English, this would be Counseling for Professional Evolution. Another example would be how can Bilan de compétences or career guidance contribute to tackling the digital gap. So as you can see, almost 75 million in Europe don't have the basic digital skills, and this was acutely felt in the access to guidance services in many countries. I worked in Slovakia at that moment, and I know that labor administration, public employment services stopped providing guidance because people didn't have computers, low skill didn't have computers, and they couldn't receive them personally. So how can we prepare and how can we use perhaps also guidance services to help people develop their digital skills? And there is one example from Hungary, where local PES associated with providers of Bilan de compétences career guidance to develop a sort of mixed blended program that integrates career guidance, but also progressive development of digital skills, which means that at the beginning of the guidance process, you do not only assess or evaluate the need of the person in terms of their career management skills development, in terms of their career development needs, but also in terms of their ICT skills. And then you can propose them activities that are tailored to their needs and that help them develop ICT skills that are necessary for their career development, such as online tools to prepare their CVs, their motivation letters, online tools for identifying their interests, usage of the emails in organizing internships and discovery of different occupations, etc. All this in a very formalized and well integrated blended package of guidance. A third example would be what could be the role of guidance in employability with a specific focus on decent work. So this is a huge challenge for many European countries where, despite the economic conjuncture, the percentage or the proportion of long-term unemployed is increasing. And here is an example from a German county and also another region in Hungary that work with Roma population, where career guidance or Bilan de compétences is integrated within a wider and long-term service proposed to low-skilled and long-term unemployed. So not only career guidance is provided, but it is also integrated in a holistic process. And this is something that is done more and more, and also in Italy, as you know. And that is connected also to sort of employability coaching, where another specialized coach works with the person on resolution of peripheral barriers to employment. Okay, so you don't have access to transport, or you don't have access to decent housing, or you don't have access to childcare, which are all peripheral obstacles that prevent you from accessing employment or accessing lifelong learning. This also needs to be tackled, not only career guidance. And without the resolution of these peripheral barriers to employment, career guidance cannot be efficient. And of course, there is activity of mediation towards employers, which means the guidance provider also has a role with the public services to go meet employers, sensitize them to the needs of long-term unemployed, and identify potential labor opportunities and help the companies adapt the workplace so that it can be more welcoming to these low-skilled, long-term unemployed people. And the fourth element of this approach is also post-employment support, which is sometimes lacking in European countries, where we do everything we can to help the person integrate a job, integrate a company, but afterwards, rarely a follow-up is proposed. So here it is proposed. So 2 weeks, 1 month, 3 months after the integration to the workplace, the job coach still continues to see the person and the employer to see if everything goes well and if other adaptations can be done in order to secure a long-term employment. The third case is maybe more a vision or a trend where career guidance is going more and more, not only in Europe, but also globally. And it's a question of what can we do, or what should we do or not do, in order to also develop a critical aspect of our practice. So we know that there are lots of injustices and lots of paradoxes and absurdities on the labor market, such as the individualization of responsibility, not only for one's own professional situation, but also for the planet, for the environment, that can lead to eco-anxiety. In France, the proportion of clients that come to see career counselors or psychologists with existential anxiety about the future of the planet is increasing. people who are looking more and more for a meaningful work, not only from individual perspective, but also from a community perspective or from the perspective of the sustainability. The ideology that career growth and growth is the only lifestyle that should be valorized is, of course, rooted in the ideology of growth. And should we as career counselors contribute to the maintenance of this ideology when we are confronted with more and more people who live through bore out, burnout, burned out, and hopelessness? And here some ideas that could maybe help us move forward and critically reflect on our role, that are just there for inspiration. Maybe career guidance can also help people in reconnecting with the world, with their environment, with the planet. Here, the idea of resonance of a sociologist Hartmut Rosa could be interesting. Helping people develop the capacity of being touched, moved to respond to the world, which is more and more something that people are looking for in this alienated world. Maybe also challenge the discourse about growth and competition in career, and focus more on solidarity through collective career guidance practice, which is especially relevant for low-skilled and excluded people. Also, as Peter Plant, that you certainly know, is claiming, maybe also support utopist thinking, because utopia have always been drivers for societal change. And this could also be a case of green guidance. How can we imagine a world where career is not something that contributes to the destruction of our environment and to the competition between people, but something that can contribute to create a more just and equitable world? To this is connected a notion of existential guidance that comes from Denmark, if I'm not mistaken. How can we deal with the hopelessness and anxiety from the existential dimension, and help people develop more resilience? And as recent publications by Hooley, Sultana, and Thompson have been suggesting, also career guidance as a tool that can help people develop critical thinking and collective action. Ronald Sultana, who recently passed away, once said that career guidance should not only be a tool for educating a neoliberal citizen that always adapts to the need of labor market, but perhaps we should help people realize that some things are not normal, some injustices are not accessible, and think and help them not only individually but also collectively act for a change. Now, there have been some works, some examples. For example, an idea of green guidance, where traditionally, when we work with clients, with people, we talk about interests, skills, labor market, meaning of work, values, aptitudes, personality. But some practitioners and some research is suggesting that we should perhaps also integrate a wider factors that should impact our decision making when career is concerned. So other humans, the notion of decent, durable work, the notion of justice on the labor market, the notion of ecological transition and environmental crisis, and the earth as a living ecological space where we exist. Our choices can have impact into this, and our choices, as these people suggest, should also take into account these factors. More specifically, recently, colleagues from Denmark suggested the following model of green guidance or of sustainable guidance in 4 steps. The first step would be helping people connect with the world, helping them ground their experience in time, space, nature, enable their resonance and develop their resilience to deal with anxiety. Then also in the second step, imagine the world, help them develop vocational hope in creative ways. Today, maybe it is also your experience where young people are hopeless. They are not motivated at all to participate in the labor market or in education and training. Why? Because they see no perspective and no point in doing this. So also the role of guidance would be to develop a more hopeful perspective and imagining possible futures that would be different from what they live today on the labor market or at school. Third step, connecting this to the reality, learning about the world, learning about the opportunities that make sense for me as an individual, but not only from individual perspective, but also for a collective perspective. And in the fourth step, how can I contribute to the changing of the world? How can I contribute? What first steps can I do in my current job, in my career choices? What ethical stance do I want to take? And how to act as a person in my small scale, but with a big horizon of what the society and the planet needs and is capable of. So as a conclusion, I think that we can be optimistic that career guidance and our sector can be part of the solution. But part of the solution, or if we collaborate with other sectors and if we integrate our services in our service provision, and we should be courageous to explore these new creative ways of providing and adapting our service, and also maybe think about how can we develop this critical perspective in our practice, not only to contribute to transform people into a good neoliberal citizens, but also to have this wider role. And as a two supplementary slides, and then it will be finished. If you would like to participate, I will post in chat a survey that has been prepared by a project exploring green guidance, where FEGBOP is participating, and the idea is to develop tools and methods for delivering of this green guidance. And we will be interested in your opinion on this, your experience in this. The survey is available in English, in French, and in other languages. Unfortunately, not in Italian, but if Asitor would be interested in this, we could perhaps prepare a translation in Italian. And a last slide by a French professor, Jean Guichard, maybe you know him. His question that leaves us reflecting on our role: will we continue to collaborate in supporting the forms of work that undermine the future of the planet and human species? Or can we promote the creation of active life forms that lead to sustainable development by decent human activities? So with this very visionary statement, I thank you for your invitation, and I wish you a very successful continuation of the conference. Thank you.